First and goal, keep it on the ground, and keeping his legs going and chugging into the end zone for the touchdown is Smith.
I saw a coverage I've never seen in my life that time on the outside on Calvin Johnson. It looked like a gunner on a punt return.
Yeah, look at that.
I have never seen that. No matter how great the receiver is, I have never seen that before.
Hold on. Rewind that about 5 seconds, please. Your eyes do not deceive you. That is a full-on double team in an NFL game. No, not bracket coverage, not a double team block, but flat out 2 defensive backs at the line of scrimmage against a receiver. But that's the thing. That's not a receiver. That's the receiver. Calvin Megatron Johnson. If you were to describe Calvin to someone who is unfamiliar with his game, I've always said the simplest way to explain it is he's essentially LeBron in shoulder pads. For LeBron's entire career, there has always been a phrase that stuck beside him. No one that size should be able to move like that. We've heard this description towards many NFL players in history, but that's usually where it ends, size and speed, except for Calvin. RAS, or Relative Athletic Score, is a 0 through 10 composite metric created by Kent Lee Platt that measures an NFL prospect's athleticism by comparing their combined physical and athletic testing numbers against historical data for their specific position. In the history of this data, there have only been 10 wide receivers to have a perfect RAS score, with Calvin being one of them. Except he is not like the others. Not in the slightest. You see, each measurement and drill, depending on how you grade, is placed on a percentile, 0 through 99. Now, the NFL has never, and most likely will never, see another player like this. 6'5", 96 percentile, 239 pounds, 98 percentile, a 4.35 40, 91 percentile, 42.5 vertical, 98 percentile, and a 139 broad jump, 99 percentile. The only receiver in history to be 90 percentile or higher in these 5 metrics. Megatron is not a nickname just given to anyone. He's an anomaly. He's the anomaly. A player that was built in a lab and had compound V injected into his body to form the best wide receiver the league has ever seen. Not the greatest, but the best. If you tell me I need to pick a receiver to have on my team in a must-win game, give me 81, 11 out of 10 times. From the moment this man stepped onto an NFL field, you immediately knew what type of player you were dealing with. But this was even obvious before he took his first snap. Prior to the NFL draft, here's what anonymous NFL executives and coaches had to say about Johnson. The number 1 player in the draft, a giant, knows how to work the fades, maneuver the DBs, and an excellent blocker. He's like Roy Williams coming out, but bigger, much bigger. No doubt the best player in the draft. When I watched him as a true freshman, I thought this guy can play in the NFL right now. He's a cross between Moss and Owens, except he's bigger and faster. A freak. He has no comparison. Best I've ever seen coming out. He's better than Roy Williams, Andre Johnson, and Larry Fitzgerald. The greatest wide receiver prospect of all time. When a player is met with expectations like this, it's very easy to not live up to them. Except these people weren't setting the bar too high for Calvin, because he knew the type of player he was. During an interview pre-draft, Johnson was questioned, "You're about to become the next pass-catching sensation in the NFL. To which already established receivers do you compare yourself to?" His reply? "I'd say a mixture of Randy Moss and T.O., with the character on the field of a Marvin Harrison. Maybe the heaviest amount of pressure a rookie could put on himself. And yet it wasn't nearly enough to bring him down." Now, Calvin didn't get off to the insane rock star start that many expected, but don't get it twisted. The league knew what type of player he was going to be, totaling over 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns in his first 4 years of his career. Mind you, he was doing that with not so stellar quarterback play, and putting up these numbers weren't common for a wide receiver at this time, which makes sense because we aren't dealing with a common wide receiver. In fact, he's so uncommon, some might call him an outlier, especially with how he convinced an entire generation that one of the worst current plays in football was statistically the best. From 2011 to 2013, Johnson would enjoy one of the greatest primes by a wide receiver in NFL history. Over his next 46 games, Calvin would grab 302 receptions, over 100 a year. He racked up 5,137 yards. That's over 1,700 yards and 111 yards per game for 3 consecutive years. And also hauled in 33 touchdowns, an average of 11 every year. A stretch from a receiver that may never be replicated again, but not necessarily in the way you may be thinking. You see, there's a world where Justin Jefferson can average 1,700 for 3 consecutive seasons. I mean, 300 receptions over 3 years is a layup for players like Puka and Amon-Ra. Or I mean, come on, Jamar wakes up to 11 touchdowns a year. Yet since Calvin's prime ended, no player has came close to reaching such dominant status that he had, because his impact goes much deeper than just counting stats. Let me put this in perspective for you. In order to be a successful offense and team, you need to specialize on multiple different aspects of the game. Avoiding third downs, protecting the football, limiting penalties. This list can go on for quite some time. But one of the most important statistics to success as an NFL team is red zone offense. When looking at the records of the top 3 and bottom 3 teams in red zone scoring percentage over the past few years, you can see the type of effect that it has. The teams at the top of the league in this statistic will have records that reflect that. And the same goes for the teams at the bottom. Scoring 6 over settling for 3 or potentially walking away empty will forever be what separates the contenders versus the pretenders, obviously. Now this is where Calvin makes his way back into this conversation, because if a goal line opportunity met the Lions, you might as well just add 6 points to the scoreboard, because there has never been a player that was this dominant inside the 5. During Johnson's luxurious career, maybe his most impressive statistic of all isn't one you can find in the box score. It's one that you had to be witness of. In Calvin's 9 seasons, he was known for getting in the end zone, with 4 of those seasons coming with 12 or more touchdowns. But his vintage way of grabbing these? A goal line fade, an art that has since been lost since Johnson's departure from the league. Since 2018, just 3 years after his retirement, a goal line fade is the least effective play at getting in the end zone in goal-to-goal situations. With an EPA of negative 0.27 and a positive play percentage of just 29. Some notable plays that have a higher success rate consist of a whip route, a comeback route, and believe this, a broken play. That's correct. Since 2018, a play that includes a bad snap, a receiver running the wrong route, hell, even a situation where the quarterback is 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage is a better play than a goal line fade. Now, considering all of the numbers and examples I just gave you, what were the numbers when Calvin was in charge of a goal line fade? Well, Calvin Johnson is the only receiver ever to catch over 50% of his targets on this route. 50. No other receiver is quite frankly close, which brings us back to where this all started. First and goal at the 1.5-yard line. The Lions came out in 11 personnel, which means 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 receivers. 5 potential receiving options. And the Saints believed the best way to stop the Lions was to simply ignore everyone else and treat Calvin like he's Steph Curry once he passes half court. This man did not earn one of the greatest nicknames in history for no reason. He was the most feared, gifted, talented, and humble receiver that this league has ever seen. We have watched many all-time talents in recent memory, but none quite like him. Truly, a once-in-a-generation player. Defenders were lucky he only played 9 seasons. We were lucky to be able to witness this for 9 seasons. I hope everyone who watched this video learned something and also enjoyed. I'm out. Peace.